Hiya, my name's Kevin. I've been working with Mike on the heat pump mover. He asked me to run some tests so that we could get CE marking. So this video is about the testing regime that we set up, why we set it up, and the results, so that you can see that it did pass. You can see on page 1 that we set up our test strategy in line with British Standard 1757, because this is to do with scissor lifts and pallet trucks. Unfortunately, it was withdrawn in 2010, but we still used it as a basis to move forward. So we're looking to get CE marking, and to do that we would have to prove to the HSE that we tested it and we set its usability specification in line with the tests that we found. So the aim of this test is to test all the components that make up the heat pump mover, to understand the weak or breaking points of the mover during the test, and to replicate and exceed real-life environmental and operational conditions so that we can set the actual real operational conditions a bit lower. So we had to make a bunch of assumptions. So we have assumed that someone is going to install a heat pump once a week for 3 years. The average distance of moving the pump is about 10 meters, and that's average distance. Obviously some would be shorter, some would be longer. And the test spec pump that we used was the Valiant 12K monoblock. And this is the heaviest pump that Mike's installed, and it's about 194 kilograms. And there's a URL there to check out the whole spec. We know that pumps come in basically small, medium and large, and we've gone for the large one to do all the testings, obviously. So the assumption is that anything smaller than the large would be extend the life and not put the pump mover under so much stress. We believe a typical workload is about 25% of the year will be small pumps, 60% medium pumps and about 15% large pumps. All tests were carried on 194 kilograms plus 10%, so around 200 kilograms. The max load test, we took 194 plus 30% extra load and run that at 250, and you'll see some of the results of that later. The tilt test was designed to go down something the size of a road curb. We know a low road curb is about 50 millimeters, which gives us a 5-degree tilt angle, and a high curb is about 130 millimeters, and that gives us a 10-degree tilt angle. So we tested both of these. Page 2 is just some of the test specs and where some of the angles came from, so you can look at that at your own leisure. Page 3 is all about designing the test. So we want to do a max load test, anything over 250 kilograms. And what we're going to do is load the mover with anything over 250 kilograms and check it out that nothing bends or breaks, because that would obviously be the key. You'll see through the test that we did pass this, so no visible signs of stress on any of the components. And in fact, we tested it at 263 kilograms.
Okay, so test number 1 is the load test. As we can see, there's still a nice gap around the edges. Wheels aren't bowing or bending. This steel rod looks okay. She looks perfect. So this is going to be the final testing weight of the heat pump mover. We've got the 4 bags of cement, we've got 2 trench blocks, a bag of sand, and then the actual original rig weight of about 26 kilos. So that should be more than the 200 kilos that we would be doing the test.
Next test was the max load test while moving. So this is where we set it at 200 kilograms. We would load the mover across the axle and move it around a building site with a minimum of 200 meters. And the test results expected nothing would bend or break, and it passed this. There were no visible signs of stress. In fact, the actual weight tested was 203 kilograms.
So this is the rig we're going to use. We're going to go to the test site up the woods, where it's got plenty of undulations, mud, bricks, rocks, twigs.
So the next test was to test the max front strap so that we could pull it. We've set the limit to 50 kilograms. The handles can handle way in excess of that, but we didn't want to damage the heat pump, so we loaded it up and just pulled it as hard as we could across various sites. So we were checking that securing points didn't snap or the handles didn't bend, and we can safely say that anything 50 kilograms is set now to prevent really the pump being damaged.
Right, so this is simulating a heat pump. They're roughly around this sort of length. So this is the test of the strap or handle.
So 2.8.
Now the handle itself is guaranteed to 100 kilos, but we say only do it to 50 kilos. And the hammock strap is guaranteed to 800 kilos. But again, we want to just keep it onto the 200 kilos for the maximum loading.
The max durability we've set at 2,000 meters. So we loaded it up, as you know, with 200 kilograms, and we traversed across rough ground, cattle grids, gates and everything else. And it was at walking speed, so less than 4 miles an hour. And at the end of it, there were no visible signs of damage, so we were quite happy. In fact, we actually travelled 2,253 meters, which is far in excess of what you would do in a three-year period.
Right, so this is the part we're looking forward to, the endurance test. So we're basically going to take this up to the woods. We're going to do about 1,000 meters walking with it non-stop, and then we're going to see what happens. Come on. Just flipping off and smashing it.
So the working tilt test, we set this at 10 degrees maximum really, as this should represent going over bricks or poles or anything on a building site. So we loaded the mover up with 200 kilograms and we walked it for quite a while actually. And the test was that nothing would break or show signs of damage, and it didn't tip over whilst we were moving. It did pass this. We moved on the way out, it was 1,000 meters. And it was going up and down curbs. There were no signs of stress, didn't tip over, which is probably the most important part, and we used left and right curbs as we were taking it out. When we got to site, you'll see that we did a max tilt test. This was anything really over 20 degrees. So it was loaded with 200 kilograms, and we were going to find a site that was in excess of 20 degrees, which we did.
Right, so now we're going to do the tilt test. We've got 26 degrees. Up to 30 degrees, and then maybe we'll try to get it to there, which is 35 degrees. Right, so we're halfway during the endurance test. So far we've done 0.72 miles, which is about 1,158 metres. No, wheels still look good. They're tilting ever so slightly. No, bar's fine. Okay, it looks pretty good.
And as you'd expect, nothing broke, nothing fell over, was the whole criteria. So we split this in two passes really, because the first one, it didn't tip over even at 30 degrees, which was okay, which was pass, but it did fail in terms of it buckled the wheels and it actually broke the hub. So we are not recommending 200 kilograms on anything exceeding 20 degrees. Now it sounds a bit bad, but what we did do, that we now know that the wheel is the weak point. Nothing else broke, nothing else moved. So we now know the weak point of the mover.
Blimey, so moving 200 kilos for about 1.5 miles, over 200 kilos. She's still in one piece. That was over cattle grid, round 2 gates, rocks, stones.
Oops.
Done the tilt test up to 35 degrees. She's still in one piece.
Page 4, we're looking at the max securing straps. So all of the equipment, the straps and the handles can exceed everything that we are testing it against, but we've got to set it at a limit. So anything above 20 kilograms would not be acceptable. So we just loaded a simulated heat pump and we tested the straps as tight as we could. The securing points shouldn't snap or bend or show signs of damage, and that was key, and that passed quite easily on 20 kilograms. In fact, we took it to 34 kilograms and we couldn't get it any tighter and nothing moved, so we were happy with that.
So the last test we're going to do is just simulate the heat pump, the top of the heat pump mover. I'm going to ratchet it up to roughly what I would ratchet up, and then we're just going to test to see strength. Probably about there, which is about 15 kilos. And now we're just going to try and over tighten it, just to confirm the bar, everything's okay with the bar.
Yeah. 28 and the bar has not budged.
Now we're just going to take it all apart, take all the weight off, spin it upside down, just check to make sure the axle's still straight, that the wheels are okay, that the general condition is as I'd expect.
Tyre pressure is quite important, so we set, the manufacturer says 30 psi with max load, so we did exactly that. So we set it at 30 psi with 200 kilograms of weight, and the tyres did flex quite nicely. It was it was very stable actually, and it passed because there were no visible signs of damage to the tyre or the wheels, and it was set to 30 psi. Page 5 is all at our maximum operating load, so this will go in a manual. This will be our contractual obligation, that the max load while sitting still should not exceed 250 kilograms. That when moving, we are saying it should not exceed 200 kilograms whilst being moved across a typical building site. The max distance for a single move we are setting to 50 meters, because we don't think you shouldn't really be exceeding that. It can, but we have to set it to 50. The max tilt test, we're saying that you shouldn't really exceed 10 degrees for any obstacle whilst moving. And if you're going particularly across a rough site where you might get a swing on the pump, then we're asking you to stop after each swing, so we don't want to build up momentum, and we certainly don't want to tip the pump over. The maximum pull, we're saying is 50 kilograms. It can do more than that, but we don't want to damage the pump. The securing straps load, we're setting to 50 kilograms so that we don't want the heat pump being damaged. Maximum speed we're saying is walking speed only, so not exceeding 4 miles an hour. And maximum tyre pressure is 30 psi with anything over 100 kilograms. So monthly maintenance, we're asking you to check all the bolts and wheel nuts just to make sure they're not loose. And if everything above is correct, we'll offer a 5-year guarantee on all originally supplied parts, excluding the wheels and tyres, because we know that these can be damaged on site and we cannot predict what each site would look like. There you go, that's the end of our tests. Hope you found that interesting.